Good evening. I'm Eric Goplerud, Interim Project Director of the program, The Power of Faith, a project to help congregations in Northern Virginia and elsewhere to increase the energy efficiency of their buildings and to green their sacred grounds. This is one of a series of monthly webinars that we've been holding on topics which are important to really coming to grips with energy waste that's in our facilities and renewable energy. A couple of months ago, we did a poll of participants in this webinar asking what were the important things that you would all like to know. What are the things that are most important and gripping as you try to move forward with energy efficiency in your buildings? And number one was finances. So what tonight we have arranged is that we have three, potentially four, I'm not sure where the fourth person is, companies that finance energy efficiency and or renewable energy and work with faith communities. There are very few faith communities that feel like they've got several $100,000 sitting around that they could invest in new HVAC systems or putting renewable energy on their roofs. So it's really important to understand and have access to companies that have a deep experience in working with faith communities to help them finance energy efficiency and renewable energy. So that's what we have tonight. We have three, or potentially, if the fourth person shows up, companies that work in this space and specifically work with faith communities. We've arranged this so that we'll be having brief presentations by them, and then the bulk of the time will be conversations. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. And at the end, I will, after their presentations, I'll read them, or you can just raise your hand on the, using the raise your hand mechanism here in the Zoom. We will be recording this, or we are recording this session, and we'll send out the recording as well as any materials that are shared by these companies and also by others that we have been working with you all and everyone who registered for this program. We know that there are a number of people who were not able to attend tonight, so we're really pleased that you all can make it and that we have these really great presenters. Before I get started, though, I would like to introduce you to two people. They're not going to say much, they're going to be here, but you'll get to know them, I think, more and more. First is Chris Topolewski, who is the Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions Executive Director. Again, so Chris Topolewski, who may or may not wave to you all. There he is. And then I'm especially pleased to introduce Claudia Saunders, who I hope that she can somewhere wave to you all. She is the now 1 week and 1 day project director for the Power of Faith. And so I'll be stepping back a little bit, and she will be stepping forward as we keep working with the faith communities to increase the energy efficiency of their buildings. Couple of a real quick announcement. We've been having these monthly webinars. We will not be holding a webinar next month in April, given that that's a month when there's an incredible amount of environmental and climate work that is going on in congregations. Earth Day, Earth Week, lots and lots of things. The Faith Alliance will be having a photo contest. Uh, uh, I guess it's a kind of a contest. It's basically strut your stuff of what your congregation is doing on Earth Day and send us pictures. And at our annual Sustainability Champions Award program in June, we'll be sharing those pictures. Also, in this time, the Faith Alliance is soliciting um, nominations of people who will be, who have been people, congregations, companies, and elected officials who have been doing extraordinary work either this last year or over their lifetimes. And we would like to have you make recommendations uh, to us of individuals who can be or who should be recognized as sustainability champions in as individuals, youth, congregations, businesses, and elected officials. So more information on that in the future. Now, one of the things that we'd like to try or to do is to just get a sense from you as to how important and how you are using financing and what that is. So I'm going to send a couple of really quick polls. First of all, how important to you is financing? Let me just take a couple of minutes. Hopefully right now this is showing. Is it showing? Nod. Not showing. Shoot, let me try. Nope. It's not showing. Okay, let's try this one then. Okay. Is this one showing? Looks like it's not. Okay. We'll just consider that this is an important topic and move on.
Hey, Eric, it looks like if you go down into the bar and you select polls, you can pop it up and it'll pop up in front of your screen. That's what I just did. I think everybody has to do it. They have to go to that button, press polls, and then it'll pop up on your screen.
Well, in lieu of doing that, why don't we just keep moving on? And I'd like to introduce first to start off Joe Zeitz, who is with Mission Energy, and he will be sharing what he and his company have been doing working with faith communities. So Joe, it's all yours.
All right. Well, just give me 1 second here to go into share mode. And how's that looking?
Looks good.
Great. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for taking a good part of their evening away. And I think I'm hoping to set the stage. There's a really good group of representation here from other companies. So I'll just start by saying it'll probably create more questions than answer. You know, if I could give you a link that said, here, you go to this link and you'll get all the money you need, that would be, we'd be over and done with already. But and so from this point, I'm just trying to kind of tweak your interest to a strategy. And all nonprofits, no matter what size, have the same common denominator. We find that no matter what the size of the organization, everybody can benefit from doing energy efficiencies. So we all realize that you have a mission to run, and your buildings are not part of that mission. It just enables you to do that. And then one of the nice things about the energy efficiencies are that they are one of the easiest expenses to control. Some things are not so easy, but it's pretty simple. If you save $1, you have that dollar to work back into your core mission. So the question is, how do you accomplish what you need to do with a group of limited resources? And oftentimes those resources are dependent upon skill level set, bandwidth. Sometimes it's finance. Sometimes it's risk aversion. Somebody has to make a decision in your group, and not many people want to take that risk on to be, as we would say, the one throat to choke. So I don't know if these are displaying all at one time, these points. I'm guessing from my screen they are.
Joe,
yep.
why don't you show these in PowerPoint presentation?
How about that?
That works. Yeah.
That's what I was trying for. Thank you. So anyways, you want to try to come up with a strategy to make this work for you. So one of the things you can do is determine if by doing energy efficiencies or solar, would it change your rate category with the utility? That's one way you can save money. And it's another way you can help if very quickly have a payback. You may even add storage. For instance, Marquette is in California. About every building there should be adding storage right now to solar to make this functional because of the way NEM3 is, which is a local net metering rule. And then you want to take a look at your entire portfolio. So instead of just looking on the small side of things with your congregation, if you're part of a diocese or you have a portfolio, you want to look for the whole portfolio. You can try to do that. That will help you scale everything across. Lots of different times you can leverage that to get better deals on the improvements. And then, of course, you want to take advantage of all the grants possible. They are lots of different grants. You have to do some digging around for it. I know with Mission Energy, we have a pretty good idea of the local grants in various places around the country. Some are better than others. Like, for instance, I sit in New York. There is one grant you can get that will pay for 75% of the upgrades. And then just keep in mind, there's maybe some from the utility, and also some of them are time sensitive. So for instance, Illinois, I know that's not where you are, but those are very time sensitive. So you want to be able to be nimble. And then that brings us to the next point, which is you want to have your full leadership organization in alignment. So you want to find a North Star. What are your goals? What are your objectives? And then that way you can all move at the same pace. If you find it by consensus, it usually doesn't get done. So you have to kind of pick out a leader or like I said, a North Star of what you want to accomplish. And then you want to form a very solid timeline, and you want to have a budget. Because if you don't have either of those, you're not going to have any goals and any it'll just get kicked down the road further and further and further. So and I would say you want to seek out the expertise as soon as possible, whether that's with us or one of the other fine vendors here. And then you want to make sure that whoever you are talking to offers a phase of the process that would mitigate the risk. So, for instance, with us, we typically will have a small amount of money spent by the local group to make sure that everything will work, and we can de-risk the project as quick as possible at the lowest cost. And I won't get into too much of what we are because of time, but I believe we're going to be sending this out. So, but Mission Energy, there's two components to us. One is Catholic Energies, and Catholic Energies is a service of Mission Energy. Mission Energy will work on any nonprofit, whether it's secular or whether it's faith-based. For instance, we're doing some disaster resiliency centers for the Red Cross, or we have other faith-based groups that don't fall into the Catholic organizations. If it's a Catholic faith-based organization, then Catholic Energies will deal directly with them. So we want to do is just present a group of solutions. We don't sell anything, so we are a developer. And going along with that strategy, it sounds corny, but if you can kilowatt, you can save a lot. So the cheapest energy is the one you never have to buy. And just to give you an idea, this is from one of our projects. This was a moderate sized project, as we would call it. So this was a 240, let's call it a 230 kW size solar system. And then with doing LED upgrades, it could be reduced down to probably about 175. So that amount of money pays for the LEDs, for one, that you would save, but it also has a significant cost savings aside from that long term. So the best thing is if you can do energy efficiencies, there's a couple components. One is obviously conservation or reduction, and the other one is having a lower cost for what you do produce. LEDs have a really great payback. Typically, their return on investment is double digits, and the IRRs are kind of off the chart. So I would say 3 to 5 years, you could do a really good with an LED upgrade. A lot of times you can do local. I understand there's a gentleman here on the board here that does them. We will work locally with various vendors to to have this accomplished, but sometimes you can do directly with your utility. Now that was about a 3-year payback, and it was saving about, or it was costing probably about $3,000 per year for this particular upgrade if you didn't do anything. I'm sorry, per month. If you wait, you're going to spend probably, this number here, 373,000 is enough to pay for the solar system. So that's why I said you have to have a timeline, you have to have a goal, because doing energy efficiencies up front can help pay for the bigger lift down the road. So you can take it as a phased approach, energy efficiencies, solar, storage, or you can do it all at one time if you have that capabilities. Another thing to look at in the energy efficiency world is power conditioners. Now, this is there were about 60 meters at this university. This is a Midwest university. And by adding power conditioning, the cost was $180,000 to do it. The savings per year were about 61. So there's about a 3-year payback. So again, power conditioning's 3 to 5 years payback. The higher demand rate you pay, and maybe we should take a minute just briefly, you have a component for supply, you have a component for delivery, and you have a component for demand. If your demand rates are high, then power conditioning is going to be your best friend. You can see the boxes above these service panels. That's what they look like physically. So just some key takeaways. You want to leverage what you can with the IRA. There's 30% just for a direct pay back to the nonprofits. If you're in an energy community, you get another 10%. If you're in a low income, it's pretty competitive, but it's another 10%. Domestic content, if it ever happens, is another 10%. But the cost to wait is more than the cost to do it. And then the power conditioners are going to be intentionally placed, so they may or may not be of benefit, but that should be part of your strategy. And then again, I would say it's imperative that whoever you select evaluates to optimize your whole facility, not just what they're selling. And if you happen to want to work with us, it will cost you more in a sense, but we also pay for ourselves by eliminating waste and shortening the timeline and other things like that. But we don't sell anything, so we typically would have an independent design and then work with folks to accomplish whatever it is, again, their objectives are. And then just a couple of quick shots of some of our projects. This one here is in Washington area, and one in sort of my stomping grounds. So I do thank you, and again, I hope this stimulates some of the discussion to follow.
Thanks a lot, Joe. And while Marquette Mason is talking about Revolve, perhaps you can look in the chat because there's a lot of clarification of technical terms that make sense to you, but for folks who are not so steeped in this, there are some questions. So perhaps you can take a look at that when Marquette Mason from Revolve describes what his company does. And I have to say that as a lead-in that Dale Howell from Akatink UU has spoken really, really highly about Revolve. And so you come with a good invitation. Not to say in any way that Joe Zeitz is not the Catholic mission. Energy has been doing just fabulous work with Catholic faith communities across Northern Virginia and the DC metro area. So Marquette, please.
Thank you, Eric. Glad to be here. And yes, Dale, very cool guy. I met him, been speaking to him about his property, his organization over there, helping him get solar. So I appreciate him speaking highly of Revolve as well. And thank you to everybody for having me. My name is Marquette Mason. I am the solar account manager here at Revolve. Revolve is a nonprofit organization. We're a nonprofit financer. We're based in San Francisco, California. I am located in Sacramento, California. And our mission is to help other nonprofits across the nation go solar, whether that's a house of worship or just any other type of nonprofit, like a food bank, a shelter, things like that. So any type of nonprofit, we help get solar, and we help by finance. We can only work with nonprofits, so we do not work in the for-profit residential or commercial sector. We can only help other nonprofits, and houses of worship are one of those. Right now, the reason why this is a big conversation for a lot of the houses of worship across the nation is because of the IRA, which Joe spoke about a little bit, but the Inflation Reduction Act is allowing nonprofits to claim a direct payment now for going solar. I've been in solar for 10 years, and we have never been able to help nonprofits, especially churches, go solar until now. And the reason is because the government's giving money back for your nonprofit to go solar. Nonprofits don't pay taxes, so the government has always been giving 30% back to the residential and commercial side because they pay taxes and they're able to take advantage of what's called an investment tax credit. Nonprofits, we don't pay taxes, so we can't take advantage of any tax credits. So what they've done now is they give back in a direct payment in a check 30%, at least 30% of the total cost of the system. Example, if a system costs $100,000, you'll receive at least 30% back from the government in a direct check of $30,000. That's 30% of a system costing $100,000. Now, when it comes to Revolve, we finance solar, we finance battery storage, we will finance roof repairs, we will finance panel upgrades, electrical box panel upgrades if you need those. We'll finance electrical vehicle chargers. We'll finance carports where solar goes on if you build like a car port structure for your location. We'll finance all of those as long as the main product is solar. So with solar, you can get everything else financed. When it comes to our financing, just to speak briefly on that, and we can answer questions or we could communicate directly through email to learn more. But when it comes to financing, we have our basic product, main product that helps you take advantage of the IRA, the Investment Reduction and Direct Pay, is our loan product. Our loan product is 25 years at 7% interest fixed. All right. We have no prepayment penalty, so you can pay it off at any time. What's that? So that's 25 years, that's 7%, that's fixed. We have no down payment, so you do not have to put any money down to go solar. There's no prepayment penalty for it. We do not place liens on the property at all, and we do not ask for collateral. We file what's called a UCC, and that is a Uniform Commercial Code, letting the city or the localities know that we have an interest in the solar panels themselves. So that's kind of like the collateral is the actual equipment itself. We are strictly dedicated to the community, so we're community facing. We can only help community facing nonprofits. All of the houses of worship are eligible. But like HOAs, we can't help an HOA even though that's a nonprofit. That's one of the ones we can't help. What else? That's pretty much it. Like we have a big ambassador program across the nation, which is we have 15 different universities where we educate, train, and motivate the youth to go out there and speak to other nonprofits to let them know that they can now go solar without any money out of pocket. We also every project that we help or every nonprofit that we help, we also like to do a ribbon cutting for them. So that means once the project is installed on the property, we will support like a video, drone footage. We'll invite people, elected officials from the community to come check out the project. So we really like to get involved with the community and show the impact that that these nonprofits are having. And one of the things you can take away is why it's so important for churches to go, or houses of worship, I should say, to go solar. So houses of worship are the pillars of the community. Everybody goes when there's in times of need or when anything's going on, they look to the houses of worship for help. Now, when a house of worship goes solar, the whole community is going to see that. That's going to be the biggest impact on your community that surrounds you every day. They say that every nonprofit that goes solar in a 5-year period, that leads to 80 more community installations right around that nonprofit. So that means you're very impactful in what you do and people are watching. If my local church goes solar, I guarantee we're having conversations about it in the congregation or across the dinner table with each other. The local church just went solar. Why? How? What? When? Where? How do I do the same thing? So know that what you're doing, looking into solar and going solar, is very impactful. And we're just here to help finance the project to help you do that. So you're going to own your own system. You're going to reap all of the rebates, the local community rebates, the state rebates, the utility energy credits that you might earn, the direct pay. You're going to receive that yourself as the owner of your system. And that's pretty much it. Just letting you know that we're here to help you finance whatever if you want to look into it to see what it looks like for your organization itself, we can help you run those numbers. We have a local installer in Northern Virginia that operates Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania that we partner with to install all of our nonprofits in the area. So we already have a local installer in the area. We can get proposals back, we can run the financing numbers, and we can show you exactly what your savings are going to be by going solar. And remember, this is no money out of pocket. So you get your proposal, you get your system designed, installed, inspected, and turned on before you ever start making a monthly payment for the financing that you've taken. And the goal will be for your financing payments for solar to be less than what you're currently spending with your utility now. Example, if you spend $100 now a month with your utility, we would hope that solar would come in and give you the same energy for, let's say, $70 a month. Therefore, your nonprofit saves $30 a month. You take those $30 savings for the month, divide that by the year, and those dollars you can use to further your mission out there in the community. So that's what solar financing is all about. I hope I answered some of the questions. I could definitely answer a lot more today or in the future. So that's it. And thank you for the time and appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Marquette.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, despite your thing saying Marquez, you're Marquette and
it's Marquez.
Okay. And also there have been a number of questions also that are in the chat. So as Dan Coates Darren Coates is talking, perhaps you can take a look and prepare to answer some of, I think some of those questions are pretty important and need a good response. Next, I'd like to introduce Darren Coates. Darren is with ThinkBox, which is a local, I think, Montgomery County business that has been doing a lot of work in Maryland and DC, working with faith communities, and has really done some really fabulous work in particularly, I think, in installing and supporting and financing solar, but they also do energy efficiency upgrades. So, Darren, please, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me, Eric, and thank you, Joe and Marquez, for your presentations. So we are a national organization, ThinkBox Group. We've been around since 1995. We've done over $150 million in projects, full service scopes. So we've done boilers and chillers and roofs and lighting and solar and geothermal over the last almost 30 years now. We are full service. So I think one of the things that you heard tonight is complexity. As these projects have gotten bigger, there's lots more money for them. But there's also a lot more complexity. So I know you guys heard things tonight like the utility rates, net metering. I saw PPAs in the chat room. Our experience is that it's almost impossible now for the most sophisticated building owners to keep up with all of this stuff. And so that's why organizations like three of ours can be helpful. We've done, I think we did the first church project in DC, which we use property assessed clean energy financing to do that one. That was about $1.5 million, and they were able to get boiler, roofs, rooftop units, floors, windows, what have you. But I think the biggest part was the complexity again. How do you navigate through engineering, finance, rate analysis, policy analysis, technical analysis? It's a very challenging thing to do, even for some of the largest companies. We did a project last year with one of the largest cold storage companies in the country, Fortune 50 company, and they don't have a handle on, I mean, all they do is energy. They basically make cold, and they didn't have a handle on their energy usage. So don't be discouraged by the terminologies and the complexities. I think to Joe's point, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are experts to be supportive for you. But I would seek them out, as Joe said, as early on in the process as possible. We also use these projects for community benefit. So we have established what's called the Sustainable Communities Project, where we have used these projects to train residents on solar installation, on electrical work, on plumbing work, trades work. We have given out over $50,000 in scholarships. I'm hearing feedback too as well. I don't know if that's me or someone else. Maybe someone could go on mute. And so we do training, we do scholarships for STEM careers, and we've done entrepreneurship coaching and training, and we've also invested in companies. So we use these projects for tangible community benefit. So you get climate benefit, you get infrastructure benefit, you get cost benefit, but you also get community benefits. So, you know, I won't prolong it tonight. I think everyone's probably itching to get to some questions. But I'll say we've been around for a long time. We've seen the market evolve. We've worked locally and nationally, and we are full service. We only work on a few projects at a time. So unfortunately, we can't get to as many as we would like, but we've enjoyed walking through this process a bit with Eric over the last probably couple of years now, I guess, Eric. And so we understand some of your challenges. We have some ideas on kind of how to help you guys get through this, and we're looking forward to being supportive if we can.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Darren. Two other companies that have joined us in past webinars. I'll just raise their names and follow up when we send out the link to this recording, and then the materials that Joe shared with you all. We will include the information for them. Those are Collective Sun, that does exclusively funding of solar projects and have a substantial amount of work that they've done with faith communities. They were a company that talked about their offerings when we had a webinar on solar. And then also Block Power, which is a company that finances energy efficiency infrastructure and has as its focus low-income, multi-unit residential and faith communities. So in a sense, they are the complement to Revolve or to Collective Sun that focus on solar. Block Power focuses on what happens inside the building energy envelope. So we'll send those pieces of information to you. I'd like to just kind of go through some of the questions in the chat, and if the presenters could unmute themselves, and then if any of you who have raised the question would like to further present that or talk about that, I'd really appreciate that. So Jerry Paulson asks, what is the grant landscape in Virginia? We could probably add a little to that, as those of you who are in Fairfax County know that Fairfax County is doing a matching grant program of up to $5,000 match for faith communities. They're doing energy efficiency audits, and up to $10,000 a year for matching for energy efficiency, renewable energy, or conservation activities. Other grants, which I'll put in the chat, as many of you know, the Faith Alliance, through our now Power of Faith program, is doing memoranda of understanding with congregations. One of the things that congregation receives that has done a memorandum of understanding with FACTS, with the Power of Faith program, is access to our mini grant program, which is a matching program of up to $2,500 to do energy efficiency, energy audits, or renewable energy. The focus is especially on congregations that are serving communities that are low income and marginalized. More than that, we can provide some more information about the grant landscape. David Kepley asks, what do you mean, Joe, by leveraging our portfolio?
Yeah, and like I had written, it can be something as simple as you have some unused property or a non-buildable property, and you decide to put a ground mount on that property, and you meter it to, say, other properties. Or it could be that you are bundling together a particular work, let's say LED work, over 4 or 5 different facilities to get a better economy of scale and better pricing. So that's what I mean by leveraging. Also, you can do it just with follow-up work, like operations and maintenance, if you happen to own the systems. Of course, a power purchase agreement, they're going to take care of the maintenance end of it, but that's a good way to do things. So it does vary. There's lots of ways to do it.
Could leveraging a portfolio also be, I know David's church is a Presbyterian church, 5 Presbyterian churches, or faith communities in a geographic location?
Sure.
that be considered leveraging?
Yeah, and you can even take it further. For instance, out in California, there is a congregation it's an Episcopal congregation that is setting up disaster recovery locations, and they are asking other churches to be involved in that, so that whoever is closest during a natural disaster can be one of those hubs. So they're linking all these different groups together. So let's say, for instance, there are 4 local congregations in your area, and you decide that one of them is really well suited for disaster recovery, so that people who, when there's a power outage, can go get their phones charged or medications refrigerated, and you pool your resources so that it can be done. So it's one way of doing what the church is supposed to be doing, is working together, right? So there's lots of different ways to do it. They're not all easy, but there are lots of different ways to do it.
Thank you.
And Eric, I'll just say on that note, I think at least for us, Eric, we've had this conversation. We think it's really critical for organizations like this to get at a certain leverage point in their portfolio. Basically, as many of you guys that can come together as possible is going to make it easier for you guys to get projects that, as Joe says, meet your goals. And that's a function of the economics of the project. So it takes a lot of effort to scope a project. So engineer, run the financial projections, especially infrastructure stuff when you're doing more than just solar, more than just lighting, when you're getting into roofs and boilers and heat pumps. And so now we have grants from all different types of sources. We have grants for certain equipment. We have incentives for certain project sizes. We have stuff that you can't do over above side. So to get that level of expertise now costs a lot more money. Eric just mentioned that Fairfax is paying for energy audits. Energy audits used to be, fairly accessible and fairly free. We would do an energy audit for free 5 years ago. But now the complexity, the sizes, the amount of work that's available, that's almost impossible. So coming together in a cooperative venture, and I think the key to that is being able to have a decision-making process that you all have already agreed to, figured out, signed up for, so that your project service providers can come in and execute and not necessarily have to go from this congregation to that congregation to that congregation to be able to get projects done, but be able to, for instance, come to FACS and say, we're going to commit, $10 million to FACS to get projects done. And in exchange, you guys are going to agree to make decisions as a group. I mean, there'll always be milestones and checks and balances, but make decisions as a group, expedite the process, make facilities available, that type of thing. I think you guys would probably get more value the more of you that can come together.
So let me ask the sort of obvious question. Do we get a better deal? Is it cheaper if we get a bunch of us together?
I think without question, because one, your transaction costs are going to go down, right? So instead of me and Joe and Marcus having to do 20 deals, we have to do one deal with 20 parts. And so that's much more efficient from a transaction perspective. I think in terms of equipment ordering, Marcus, you guys know solar, but as you get into boilers and chillers and heat pumps, I mean, everybody's got to electrify now. So backlog is an issue. Supply chain is an issue. So as we can purchase in bulk or make larger purchases, I think we have some more negotiating power in the cost of stuff. And then finally, I'll even say, and just getting contractors out. Like right now, we're able to get contractors out on site because we're giving them multiple projects. If we were calling them up about, a $300,000 project here or $400,000 project there, it'd be very difficult to get them to even come out and give us a quote. So to answer your question, I think absolutely, Eric.
Okay. I see David.
I agree as well.
Has
Good points, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, from your standpoint, I can see where if we bundled together 20 or 30 of our churches and approached one of you guys and said, hey, help us out, I can see where that would be great from your standpoint. From our standpoint, you know, getting one church to get something done is hard. Now multiply that times 30, and then multiply that times your social security number, and that's how hard it is. So hey, that just ain't gonna happen. Sorry.
It's challenging, but one of the things that Joe's company has demonstrated, working with Catholic Climate Covenant, is that working as they have been doing with a denomination, that is a way that is possible to do bundling. Now, also larger facilities help, but it may be something that makes sense. As David, you had tried maybe 5 years ago or longer to get congregations together to purchase solar wholesale. It's tough, but the economics have changed, and it may be easier.
And David, to your point, we work with the Office of People's Counsel in DC, and they've had an extensive outreach to religious organizations in DC. And to your point, we've seen up close how extremely difficult it is to do one, much less to get them all together. However, I will say 10 years ago when we started supporting OPC in this effort, we kind of said to churches, it's either this or nothing. And when the pain gets to be enough, cooperation starts to increase. And so as economic challenges have faced religious organizations,
Yeah.
as well as infrastructure challenges, as well as climate challenges,
Yep.
we have seen either churches are starting to come around. So we did one, and we did the first one in DC. It was a lot of pain, but now we have probably 5 on the board that we're trying to get done here in the next quarter.
Excellent.
And I think the pain is starting to become more prevalent. But Eric, to your point, I think the benefits are also, the benefit equation has changed dramatically. So David, I appreciate your, first on the beach gets all the arrows. But I think the equation is changing. I think the pain points are going up. I think the economics are more attractive, and I think there's more expertise to help you work through it. So, for instance, as you've seen tonight, people don't do what they don't understand, and so educating, taking the complexity out of it, being able to roll up the sleeves and kind of walk organizations through this, and then having very significant milestones. We call them milestones and off ramps. So you can, if it's not working, it's not working. If it's working, we keep going. So I think there are some ways to get through it, David, but I don't know that they're going to have a lot of choices going forward.
Yeah, I guess, and I won't belabor the point any, but it's just like you say, the pain points, but it doesn't feel like it's pain when you get a bill every month from Dominion Electric and you just pay it. You don't think, yeah, you wish you didn't pay it, but you got to have electricity. And if I say to them, but it's gone up a couple of % every year. Yeah, okay, so it's gone up. So, nobody's feeling that pain because now it's just autopilot. We get the electric bill, you pay it. You get the gas bill, you pay it. But I understand where you're coming from, and I completely agree. But it's just it's a hard lift just to get my congregation to get off the dime.
We understand.
But thank you, Darren.
I see heads shaking and smiles of, I think they're pain smiles. I see both Earl and Justin, and I'm sure there are others who are doing the same. There's a question that Kathy Kinsey raised, which is maybe more generalizable. She asked, is there a threshold solar project size below which PPA financing is generally not available? And let me more generalize it. Is there a size which just the numbers don't work out for your companies to finance for solar and or energy efficiency or both? But that was initially directed towards Marquette.
Yeah, I could speak towards the For us, as far as financing, we do not have a limit to the size or the amount of financing. So you could have a small 5 kilowatt size project that we'll finance, and we could also finance a megawatt $1 million project, right? So we don't have a limit to that. But speaking for the actual installers, when it comes to, especially for the one-off, so this would be an example of where you would probably need 20 congregations to come together to make it an effort. If the congregation has like a low utility bill, low usage, using 4,000 kilowatt hours or less per year, would be like a 2-3 kilowatt size system. Most installers, contractors, people who do the job, they won't move for that type of project. It's too small for them to actually go out. It doesn't make economical sense for them to do that. Now, we'll finance it, but getting the installer to do it is a whole nother challenge. So we would say if you're not at least a 5 kilowatt and up, then you probably want to use more energy before you look into solar.
Can you say what is? I mean, okay, I know these words, but I don't know what that means. What's 5 kilowatts look like as far as number of panels or number of acres or whatever?
Depends on the power of the panel, but let's say 12 panels, 8 to 12 panels, something around there.
Is 1 kilowatt or is 5 kilowatts?
Is about 5 kilowatts based on the power of the panels. Yeah. So, in easy numbers, let's say 1 kilowatt is 1,000 kilowatt hours. So a panel that's 250 watts, you would need 4 panels to make 1 kilowatt.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense in terms of I can count those.
Right. Definitely.
Kilowatts. It's just kind of like David. You're saying, you pay the bill. You don't know what it is. What about Joe, Darren? Are there sizes that just don't work for either for doing projects?
Most definitely. There may be considerations that, for instance, you may not have the roof space, but you have parking lot space. So your option would be for a carport, but maybe after you do a carport pricing, it doesn't pencil for you. You may want to say that for instance, for us at 250 kW is typically the lowest we can do. We have done some smaller ones, but it becomes a pain point, as Marquette was saying, to try to get somebody to come out. And then the investor also has to recover. So they're putting up their money, and they're looking for, a fast dime for the first 5 or 6 years, and then a slow nickel for the next 20. So there are sometimes it just does not work out. And then, that's why, and I think Darren brought this up, you want to have off ramps as quick as possible. So you want to be able to, none of us, and I know none of us would want to inflict a economic hardship trying to figure this out. So we would be non-professionals if we didn't tell you straight up real quick that it doesn't work for you. That's why I put the 250 kW, because that typically anything that size and above is going to work really well, even with a carport sometimes. So those are some things that you have to take into consideration.
What about energy infrastructure, heat pumps, insulation, LEDs, all the stuff that ends up sort of inside the envelope or is attached to the envelope? Darren, what you're not?
Yeah. Joe, it sounds like Joe, you're similar to what we do. I mean, we're going to spend the same amount of money whether we do a $50,000 project or $50 million project. Like we are literally going to almost probably spend the same amount of time and money. So we skew towards larger projects. That's just been where we've been fortunate to kind of find a niche. But we do smaller projects as well. I think the smallest project we've done has been, well, it's interesting, Joe. You'll appreciate this. It really depends on where you are too, Eric, because of there were projects in DC that we would not have touched 5 years ago, but because they have some of the highest renewable energy credits in the country, incentives, they have a sustainable energy utility. we've been able to get $1 million projects out of projects that probably would have been $150,000, $250,000 5 years ago. So I think with incentives and grants, you definitely can get there, but these are hard. These are hard, complex projects, and all of us are going to spend the same amount of time and money, no matter what the size is. So all of us, and I think Marquise alluded to it. Contractors are now like, "Hey, man, who Darren? Who's your customer? How big is it?" And I may or may not be interested, depending on what else is on my board. So the larger, the better.
Yeah, I think that's good. I want to note that we have Maddie Smith on the line. Maddie is with Interfaith Power and Light DMV, and we had Joelle Novi. She just came on. Joelle Novi was on our solar webinar a couple of months ago, and she walked us through the really terrific site that they have on the IPL DMV site for solar, and particularly about power purchase agreements. And that kind of leads into a question that Dan Paterini asked, which is, can you give a quick set of thoughts about the advantages of power purchase agreements versus projects owned by the congregation or a nonprofit?
Yeah. Would you like me to?
Yeah, please.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Definitely. Yeah, Dan did ask that question in the chat. I appreciate that, and that's a big question and a big thought on people's minds. So, like I said, I've been doing solar for about 10 years on the residential commercial side. When I first started, the only financing products available, if you call them financing products, were a PPA, which is a power purchase agreement. That means you're agreeing to purchase power at a certain rate from panels that are installed on your roof. All right, that's a power purchase agreement. So let's say the utility is charging you 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Your panels are charging you 7 cents a kilowatt hour. Therefore, you're saving money by that power purchase agreement that you have. As time went on, so think about a PPA. You do not own the system. You do not own, like say, if there's rebates from the utility, from the state, from the government, you do not own those. If there's any energy credits given by the utility for sending clean energy to the grid, you do not own those. You do not own the system, so there's no added value to the property. Also, especially on a residential side, the house of worship side is a little different. You really don't sell your building, but if you did try to sell your building, it's a little bit more challenging with a PPA because you don't own that part of the building, right? It's hard to sell something to somebody else when you don't own that. So that makes the transaction a little bit more difficult. As financing products evolve, next came the lease, which is similar to a PPA, has attributes of a loan as well. And then the newest, within the last 5, 6, 7 years, is the loan, which is personally my go-to recommended. If anybody on here is my family, my friends, my uncles, my grandfathers, my grandmothers, cousins, anything like that, I would not present a PPA. I would present the ownership option, the loan. Churches were giving, or houses of worship were giving the information of a PPA because that's really the only type of financing options that were available to the house of worship, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Now with the IRA out, it makes more sense for the houses of worship to own their own solar system because there's now a benefit. You don't have to have $100,000 sitting in the bank account anymore as a house of worship. Now there's financing, and the government is going to pitch in to help pay for the system, just like they've been doing for years on the residential and commercial side. So with the PPA, you don't own anything, but the good thing that they say about a PPA is it's maintained for you. The system is maintained for you. Speaking of that real quick, maintaining a system is not really that hard. There's a lot of ways you maintain it without you having to do anything. You have a workmanship warranty that's provided by the installer. You have a product warranty that's provided by the actual product manufacturers for the panels and the inverters, which is for 25 years. The next thing you would do is you would put the system onto your property insurance to cover any acts of God, meaning weather events and things like that, right? That's how you take care of and maintain a system. You have somebody to call if anything messes up. So the benefit of it's maintained for you, that's all we do is take care of all those warranties for you. And, then we own the system and everything with it. When it comes to a loan and owning the system, the nonprofit directly receives the direct pay, any city or state government rebates, any utility energy credit rebates that you might receive. All of that is to the nonprofit directly, and you can choose to use that money to buy down your loan or put back into your financing products. And it also, owning the system adds an actual value to your property. So the price, the value of your property increases if you place solar on there, which you own. As in a prime example is if your church is sitting right next to another church, same size, same usage, same value, everything. If you put solar on one, the value of that church is going to be more than the church that doesn't have solar on it. Only if you own it, though, right? So that's my short spiel on a PPA compared to a loan. PPA is good. You will save money with it. Don't get me wrong. But the best to get all the incentives, all the benefits, all the savings from going solar, I would personally recommend the ownership product, which is a loan.
There's also
especially with no lien on the property, no collateral needed, zero money down. I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah. And if you're looking future forward too, a PPA might tie your hands up, for instance, on a storage upgrade in the future.
True.
So you want to make sure you're looking at all, what your objectives are, short-term and long-term.
Like we will not finance solar and storage with a PPA. We won't do it. You can only get solar with us. But if you want all the other stuff, storage, roof, main panel, EV, it's all loan. Can't do it with a PPA.
And we would do that. So it just depends on, again, what your instruments are. And the other benefit of having ownership is a lot of times your debt load can be satisfied with your savings. So you can get either really close, or it can be a net positive, or maybe it's a negative for a few years. But you can try to right size your system. Maybe you don't go as big as you want, or maybe you go bigger and than you had initially planned for. So
let me, David asked I'm not sure, kind of a funny aside there, which is a value of a PPA is it doesn't cost you anything. Is that, or can that be fairly close to the case also for loans as you are describing them, Marquette, Joe? The concern is very few congregations are sitting around with $500,000 in a capital reserve.
Yeah, both products, both PPA or the loan, you don't need any money down. So it's the same no money out of pocket type of situation. One of them, you're no money out of pocket, you're getting a direct payment in the mail, for your system. The other one, no money down, you're just getting a cheaper rate for power that you're buying from the panels that's on your roof.
Terrific.
If you own the installation, your property insurance rates are going to go up.
Yes, they can if the amount that you're insured for doesn't have enough room in it to add whatever the cost of the system. Let's say you have a $1 million policy and your value of your property is $850,000. If you put in a $50,000 solar system, your insurance isn't going to change because you still have enough covering the value of that insurance policy.
Yeah, we're having issues now with churches, insurance companies not covering our property. We got a cancellation notice actually because we had a roof replaced because of hail damage. And now we got to find a new insurance company that'll take us.
Happened in California too, a lot.
Yeah.
That will happen more as storms become more prevalent too. So, that's, again, future forward type of thing. The time to do any of this is now, because you have federal money available. You want to do it as quick as possible while the money's still on the table. And you want to do what, what you can, if you need a new roof and you can work it in on the deal, by all means do it. As long as it pencils up for you. But that's where you really have to have some leadership.
Yeah. I want to say that I agree that you will incur additional insurance costs, but for our church, which is roughly valued at 300 or 3.5 million and a 31 kilowatt system on it, it's $180 a year. I mean, our insurance is running around 10,000 a year, and it's only another $180 for adding the solar. So it's nominal.
Thanks, Dale. There've been a couple of questions that have been raised about roofs. And ranging from, I have an 18 or 20-year-old roof. Does it make sense to put solar on it? And also a question about roof replacement. If you're replacing a roof in order to put solar on it, do you get a benefit from the feds, the direct pay, or any other similar kind of benefit that Revolve or ThinkBox would say, yeah, this is a good investment?
No, so there is a lot of misinformation on the direct pay and roofing, and that being included with the solar project. Would that be included in the total direct pay that you get? And that is not true. It's in direct writing. It is not true. So the ones who try to tell you it is, or say you're going to get extra savings or extra benefits because of that, that's not the case. And we just want to, help you understand that. But at the same time, it is smart. If you have an 18 or 20-year-old roof, what happens is you get a site survey. So the installer comes and checks out your roof and checks out your panel box to see if it can handle solar. They'll let you know if it can handle solar. Maybe you might need just a little bit of repair. You don't need a whole roof. But if you're looking into solar, you have a 20-year-old roof, consider getting a new roof done at the same time as the solar. Just makes perfect sense. You get your workmanship warranty. So for any roof penetrations that may happen on the roof, it's covered by the workmanship warranty. So that would be my recommendation. Get them both at the same time if you think you might need one.
If you're using PACE financing too, if the roof adds energy efficiency, it's probably going to help you qualify to do that roof under that program. I know for instance, of course, won't help you folks, but in New York, the grants do cover roof replacements if it's energy efficiency improvements. So there may be some other grants locally I'm not aware of that would help you with that, but
I'm not aware of them either, and I've been looking. I do want to assure everybody on this call that we will send out the contact information for our 3 presenters, so that if you wish to contact them independently, you'll have their access information. I think I saw, Justin, you had a question a moment or so back. Do you want to raise what?
Excuse me. Hi, everybody. My name is Justin Eidelberg. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm a member of Monument of Faith Church. And my question is, we're in the middle of doing a feasibility study for our church to install rooftop solar, an EV charging station, and to electrify everything in the church that's, of course, gas, and to transform, like put a heat pump in or an electric boiler. And as we're doing this, I would like to know, would it be helpful to create like an RFP to the things that we would need to help understand the work that we're trying to accomplish for, whether it's Revolve, ThinkBox, or can't think of the other gentleman's name, company, Mission Energy. Yeah. Would that be of help?
I believe so. I think it would be of help, especially for us on the solar portion. And we would love to work with Joe and Darren, from this group. and doing all the other little pieces. But for us, we would love to see it and to see if we could help you out on the portion of it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, as a developer, this is how we typically would approach a project. We have an independent engineer who would design the best solution based on the input we have. And that would be product. I'm trying to think of the right word, but it wouldn't be based on any particular brands. So at that point, we would also solicit independent bids. Not necessarily 3, it could be 6, could be 8, but we would give them the specs. So that way you have, let's say it's a solar company. Solar company A is not coming up with, well, I had this good deal on this, but you can never find them again. Or solar company B trying to compare apples to oranges. So instead, since we don't sell anything, we're looking at a solutions based presentation or several of them. And then when we would help you vet them, you would still make the decision, but you would, hopefully go upon our advice, and we would say, we like this one because XYZ. And then, that's typically how we would do it. It definitely helps get a better price.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you both.
Yes, sir.
Might be useful to address a question that Sue raised a little while ago, which is that her congregation already has solar and is just wondering whether there's any retroactive either direct pay or rebates or other savings that they might be able to accrue, given that they were early starters. They got things going before the feds put out.
How long ago was the solar project installed?
Sue, do you want to unmute yourself and share? I believe it was before 2023, though.
Depending on kind of where you are, PACE will let you go back 3 years. And that's been just in the last, I think, year or two, may have been a part of the Inflation Reduction Act. But we can go back a couple years on PACE, assuming that there's other stuff to do. So for instance, if we were going to do heat pumps or rooftop units or windows or whatever, we may be able to roll that into a PACE note. But PACE in Virginia is very new still. I think they've done a couple now. We've looked at a couple. Virginia is just notoriously very difficult to work with. Dominion has been very clear kind of where they stand on it. So any strategies that you guys can come up with are going to help you. And Justin, I did not mean to not respond to your question. Certainly, if we can be helpful, reach out to me anytime, man.
Darren, if you could just in a few words, and I know it's a complex issue, can you describe what PACE is or CPACE is? And there's a question raised, is it relevant for faith communities that don't pay property taxes?
It is relevant for faith communities that don't pay property taxes. If you don't get a property tax bill now, you will, and it will only have on it will be the PACE note. So PACE is called Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing. It is a tool that arose probably 6-7 years ago now as a way to help commercial buildings retrofit equipment. Marquise, as you were saying earlier, we didn't really have a product for commercial real estate. We had longer term financing going back to the late 80s, early 90s. We had longer term financing, 12 years. It was kind of as far as we could go out. And it was more traditional financing. So your balance sheet, your credit profile. PACE allows us now to lend off of the value of the property and not your balance sheet and credit. And it also allows us to go out, depending on your jurisdiction, 20 years, 25 years. I've even seen a couple 30-year PACE deals. So that allows to spread the cost out further to lower your annual cost. And then it is a tax assessment versus a loan. It's treated, I'll say it's treated as a tax assessment versus a loan. You still owe the money, you still got to make a payment, but it comes as a tax assessment. So it's only a couple times a year, depending on your jurisdiction, maybe quarterly, but typically we've seen a couple of payments a year. Payments don't start until you've started to accrue savings. And again, the note is attached to the building, not to your particular balance sheet. That was really critical for commercial real estate interest, because if they decide to sell a building within the term, then a traditional note was more challenging for them to extricate themselves from. But now PACE can transfer with the building, they can sell the building more easily, which allowed commercial real estate folks to participate more fully in energy efficiency and solar financing.
That's great.
So hopefully that was as simple as I can get it.
PACE is very complex. The state of Virginia passed legislation, I think 2 to 3 years ago, which allows jurisdictions to opt in to the Virginia CPACE program. It does not cover all of the jurisdictions in Virginia. I believe it covers Arlington, Loudoun, Fairfax, and a number of others. If you look at the Virginia CPACE website, you can see whether your congregation, if you're in Virginia, is in a jurisdiction where that is an accessible program. Menke, you've got your hand up.
Hi, thanks. I'm impressed with the service offerings of the gentlemen who've been speaking from Mission and ThinkBox and Revolve. What I haven't heard is how you get paid. Is it only when the loan is, are you paid through the loan proceeds, or do you charge up front?
So how we get paid, we offer a loan product, and that with interest, and that loan product is paid back over a term for usually 25 years. That's how we get paid back, by offering.
And if we never close a deal, then your service is gratis? Is that how it works?
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, not every church faith community that you work with gets all the way to taking out the money, borrowing the money. So if that doesn't happen, what's the consequence?
Oh, nothing. It's just you're now educated to see what the numbers look like, for your nonprofit and what have you. There's no cost to you to see proposals or get information in front of you, and that's just part of the process. Not everybody, not 100% of people are going to move forward, and we understand that. So no charge. Yeah.
How about the others?
So our fees are line items up front, and we are part of the loan package, if you will, the capitalization of the project. So if the chiller is $1 and the solar is $1 and our fee is 50 cents or 25 cents, then that loan will be, $1 and 25 cents. So we're capitalized as well as part of the loan proceeds. And earlier, to your earlier question about what happens if the project doesn't go, I think that's where we talked about milestones and off ramps. So very early on, we'll know what the economics of the project are, and that's the total economics, meaning the cost of the financing, the cost of our services, the cost of the equipment. Do all of those pencil, meaning do you have enough savings or renewable energy credits or grants to cover the full price of the program and not have to come out of pocket? And so we can make that determination fairly quickly, whether or not we can move forward with a project. And again, worst case, I think you put it great, Marquise. You're just more educated on your particular facility and the economics of your project.
Okay, thanks. And Mission?
Sure. And we do a pro bono initial feasibility assessment, but we do ask for some pre-qualification on it because we have limited funding and time and bandwidth to do that. So most of those you're probably already there, or they would include, for instance, a leadership buy-in, or it would include having the utility bills. It would include having some idea of how it would be paid for, either PPA or cash or loan, those kind of things. And it would have to be somewhat reasonably buildable. I've looked at properties that were completely surrounded by trees. They just aren't going to work. So those are pretty easily to determine. And then, of course, there's no free lunch. For us, we act as a client representative, or, maybe like a general contractor in a sense. So we would have a similar fee to that, and that would be paid by whoever ends up buying the system. If it's a PPA, the investor pays for that. If it's a cash purchase, it's part of, as Darren alluded to, it's part of that project. If you're with the Catholic organizations, we do pay back into the Catholic Climate Covenant, which we are one of their partners, a fee back to them to help pay for other Catholic organizations to accomplish this. Actually, we'd probably love to set up one for other faith communities too, that would do something similar, but that sort of pays it forward for the next group. And then again, we're going to have an off ramp if it doesn't look good. It encourages good communication, both directions, and it encourages an early partnership. This is a complex project. We earn our fee, and I'm sure everybody else here does. You're looking at a 6 to 18 month time frame to get these projects completed, with, again, lots of complexities. So it's money well spent. And it's typically, we've had customers who have gone their own route. On a small project, it's very doable. On a large project, you are asking for big headaches, and it's going to cost you more money. So, it's, again, money well spent typically, but there are no free lunches. Everybody has to get paid. It just has to be fair.
I agree. Everybody has to get paid. And I think you're right. We have to be realistic about what we can handle in-house and what we need outside expertise.
We're coming down to the end of our time, and I want to again to reiterate that we will the Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions has this Department of Energy project to help congregations to increase the energy efficiency of their buildings. What we are, FACS is a very small organization, so for us, the Department of Energy grant was big. In the context of things, it was very small. And what we are able to do is to bring together contractors and finance organizations, such as the three who spoke today, and help to make matches, as well as to share information and expertise among the faith communities that are participating here, and others that we hope will expand. We are going to be working with you to test models for increasing the energy efficiency of your buildings, so that hopefully that those models can be scaled up, at least regionally, so that instead of working with a handful or 20 or 50 congregations, potentially we could be using these models to reach hundreds of congregations. As I've put in the chat, we have and are working with memoranda of understanding between us and congregations to make it clear what it is that FACS can do. Just as our speakers have talked about, we ask the congregations to make a good faith commitment that they're going to work with us. And so we ask for a sign from leadership, either lay leadership, your board or your session, or clergy, that, yeah, we're serious about working on it. These are promises. This is not a contract. Those congregations that do memoranda of understanding with facts are eligible to receive mini grants, which are matching grants up to $2,500, which comes from this Department of Energy grant. $2,500 or $1,000 isn't going to buy you a new HVAC system, but it is enough to show sincerity that we're putting skin in the game and recognizing the effort that you all are going to be putting in. As I said at the beginning, we are not going to have a webinar next month. We expect that many of you are going to be really busy doing all kinds of Earth Month, Earth Day activities. We will probably hold one towards the latter part of May. And one of the topics, we'll send around a questionnaire to see about interest. But we had a really good sharing of expertise and maybe bloodied experience last month, and thought that maybe a really good topic would be, how do you talk to leadership in your congregation and bring them on board to where you already are? So how do you set up the conversations and the campaign to move your congregation forward? And that'll be a sharing of expertise, experience, bloodied experience, or hopefully joyous experiences that folks have had, and also the kind of answering questions that we've had tonight. Again, I will send out, or FACTS will send out to everyone who registered, a link to the webinar recording. We will also send the materials that have been put together, presented tonight, also some materials from Collective Sun and from Block Power, and the contact information for all of our presenters. So I want to thank you all. This has been just a terrific evening. And I want to particularly thank Darren, Joe, Marquette for such a superb presentation. I hope that we can do a lot of business together. Thank you.
Blessings.
Blessings to all.